Good morning. Oh, hello. It's nice to be here with all of you, to be back home. This is still our home church, and it's wonderful to be here worshiping with you this morning. When Wendy Knoll very graciously invited me to speak as part of your Pentecost series, she invited me to speak specifically about what the Spirit might be saying to us right now. And I got so nervous about the subject that I very nearly said no. Listening to the Spirit is not something that I feel very skilled at or qualified to speak about. And then I was talking it over with a good friend, and she calmed me down a little by reminding me that most of us likely feel the same way. We know the Holy Spirit is very elusive. In Acts 2, we read about the Spirit descending in flames on the disciples, which is just the beginning of a slew of missionary activity during which the Spirit seems to hang out with the apostles like another buddy, speaking to them as clearly as I'm speaking to you right now. I would dare to guess that most of us don't experience the Spirit in quite the same way. I certainly don't. And in fact, as this request to speak comes to me, I'm just emerging from a time in my life when I found it very difficult to hear God's voice at all. And that is what I want to share some reflections about today, because that's where I'm at in my journey. I'm going to ask some questions about times in our lives when we do seek the Spirit and do not seem to receive any answer. And Matthew 7 was the passage that kept coming back to me over these last few weeks as I've been thinking about this morning. The ask and it will be given, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you passage. It's Matthew 7, 1-12, if you have a Bible and you want to open it up and follow along. It's not a typical Pentecost text. But asking and seeking and knocking, this is what we're doing when we ask for the Spirit's guidance. And Jesus invites us to be persistent about it. In fact, some of the translations I read when preparing this reflection translated from the Greek, keep on asking, keep on seeking, keep on knocking. I'm not sure that it's an accurate translation, but it does more to make room for the reality that there are times when we are asking and seeking and knocking for quite a long time, not just once, before we receive an answer. So that is the translation that I'll be using this morning. Keep on asking, and it will be given to you. My baby daughter rolls on the plush carpet in a sea of toys on our new living room floor, all cheeks and pudgy rolls and tiny teeth that show as she shines her happy baby grin in my direction. She catches my eye as she sees me watching her. Her chubby arms go up, flailing in the air as she grunts at me, face red, asking me without words. I know this demand. She has quickly learned how to make it, and I have quickly learned what her signal means. Up, I say. I want her to know that I understand her. Up, I sing again as I heave her body from the floor onto my hip and kiss her forehead as she tries to eat my chin. She asks for simple things. Up, cracker, bottle, puppy dog, book. I am learning to translate her body language, her gestures, her faces, her babbly sounds. I anticipate before she asks what it is that she needs. Our bond is growing stronger day by day. As she asks and I respond, we are slowly growing to know each other, and I have never felt anything more raw or scary or heavenly as this fresh new love. Keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Not long ago, it was not like this, as many of you probably remember. Not long ago, there was no chubby cherub rolling on my plush carpet, no arms flailing in my direction, no fresh new love. There was heartache along the road to her arrival. When I think back to the 4 years before her, what first comes to mind is the flat, unforgiving gray carpet on my old bedroom floor with me on top of it, all futile tears and nameless grief, asking, 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 give me children or I die. Like Rachel, I have asked and asked and asked. How many times have I asked? My asking has intensified into demanding. My pain has driven me to the point of desperate ultimatum. And all the lovely people say, with concern lining their eyes, God has a plan for you. And perhaps this is as God wills it. But I push back against them, angry. What they say is not well with my soul. So I continue to ask and ask and ask. I never stop asking. But the asking and the no answers and the wondering whether God is there at all tends to wear a person down over time. Now, all the lovely people say, God has answered your prayers. And in his good timing, it has all worked out. And I agree, with a worn-out smile. But the grief of those 4 years has left a scar that stings when I smile too widely. And I ask again, why did it need to be that way? Why the heartache? Why the tears wasted on that flat gray carpet? But mostly I ask that question for those I met along that road who are still asking and asking with no answers. Asking and wondering whether God is there at all. Keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Lying in bed, I watch the rise and fall of my daughter's body curled in next to mine, her teeny fingers grasping at my pinky, her breathing deep and steady and peaceful. And I think of my friend Miriam, a new refugee who sat with me once and told me her story, as bewildered as I was that it was her story to tell. After a childhood in a refugee camp, she was widowed as a young woman. But despite these struggles and many more, she fought her way into a workforce stacked against women, spoke out for good, and worked so hard that she came to be a menace to the regime. But then the threats started to come. Smashed windows, frightening notes. Despite it all, she carried on, and as she went about her daily work, traveling in an armored car, she asked and asked and asked God to protect her, to protect them all. And then co-workers disappeared. Co-workers showed up dead in alleys. She knew she had to go. In bed, the night before she flees, she lies next to her daughter for the last time. How long until you're home, she asks. Only a few weeks, Miriam responds, blatantly lying as she curls in next to her and the tears come. And as she drifts off into an agitated sleep, she asks and asks and asks God for some other way. But when the sun rises again, it does so on the same dangerous world. She leaves to save both of their lives, still asking and asking and asking, as she flies over the ocean that will divide them. Keep on seeking, and you will find. When the day of Pentecost had come, the disciples were gathered in one place where they had all been seeking together. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind. And as it filled up the house, it filled up their minds and their muscles and caused their mouths to speak things they had never spoken before. There was no careful and drawn-out discernment process about what they should do. They were not feeling ambiguous about what they should say. The Spirit was there, palpable. She overcame them. They spoke with certainty. And all through Acts, in those first days, the Spirit speaks concretely with a near human voice, whispering to Philip to approach a passing chariot, ordering Peter to snap out of his daydreaming, declaring for all to hear that Barnabas and Saul are being set apart for a new job. Who knows why the Spirit now seems to have hidden herself from us, but she seems to be much more elusive than she used to be. and we are filled with much less certainty as we seek her. Keep on seeking, and you will find. Anabaptists believe that the redeemed community of faith, together with the Spirit, can gather in prayer around the Scriptures and talk, and study, and test, and talk, and talk, and talk, and test some more, and succeed in discovering the will of God. And despite the number of times that this has led to division, we continue to hold to this idea. What stubborn and optimistic seekers we are. Quakers, too, are devoted to seeking. They suggest that we should seek God in prayer, and when we think we have received the answer to our question, to be sure of it, we should put it out of our minds, ignore it, leave it alone for a while, years even, pray some more. And if and when the answer comes back again and again, despite our ignoring it, and it will not leave us alone, then it stands a chance at being a true leading of the Spirit. Ignatian spirituality calls us to seek God's will with careful attention to the interior movements of the soul. When seeking the way forward, we should carefully assess whether this possible answer or that one is a cause for consolation or desolation within our innermost selves. Will our choices set our insides aflame with love for God, or will it deeply disturb and darken our souls? Our emotions are the spiritual litmus test leading the way. Some call seeking the Spirit a dance. Some say it's like our sails catching the Spirit's wind. But God help me, I have 2 left feet. And despite my father-in-law's efforts, I've never taken to sailing. And all of these long and deliberate and painstaking processes we embark on require patience. And I have very little. And at the risk of sounding cynical, the hard fact remains that no matter your particular variety of Christianity or method of seeking, nobody living has the final word on which of the church's decisions are right or wrong. And nobody living has the final word on which of these methods of seeking are good or not. We are all shooting in the dark, and nothing at all prevents us from using these processes to put the spiritual rubber stamp on our own desires. Nothing at all prevents us from claiming that we have received inspiration from heaven to somehow make our own goals sound holier. And are any of us, even the most upright among us, capable of more than that anyway? Keep on seeking, and you will find. But how long must we seek, and what exactly will we find? Some seek for a lifetime and do not find their comfort or liberation or peace. And if we are at all honest, we will admit that we have all at times lost tears seeking, plastered to the flat gray carpets at the bottoms of our own lives. We have all cried questions into the void that seem to rebound to us unanswered. Even if you are one of those rare and fortunate souls who has received all the answers you have ever wanted, you have witnessed the tears of a fellow human who has not. In the face of such uncertainty, why should we continue to seek at all? Keep on knocking, and the door shall be open to you. But not all who ask receive. Not all who seek find. Not all who knock discover an open door. Jesus, why did you encourage your disciples to keep on asking, seeking, and knocking? You were human. You suffered. You knew the absence of God. You knew what it was to live in a painful state of being unanswered. Keep on knocking, and the door shall be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who seeks finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, being sinful, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. My baby daughter rolls on the floor all day long, all chubby cheeks and babbles and grins. Right now, her demands are simple ones. I meet them easily, quickly, almost without thinking. But one day, God grant me the longevity to see it. Her demands will become more complex. She will knock on my bedroom door and ask for my attention and make demands for intimacy and affirmation and independence and trust and love and space in ways that I won't always be able to understand. And my prayer is not so much that I will know how to meet her demands or that I will know exactly what to say, because I know all too well that my words will falter and I will be powerless to give her all she needs. But my prayer is that she will always know that she can knock, and that despite my stumbling answers, she will want to keep on knocking. May we both always know that I am for her, and may our both knowing this open up a space of ease and trust between us. I have realized that I know next to nothing about God or the Spirit or how this seeking thing all works out. But I do know this. If the love of God for each one of us is even remotely as heavenly and raw and scary as the love I feel for my daughter, if God is actually lifting us up in God's arms to kiss our foreheads when we flail our arms wildly, making demands, if God's love for each one of us wears God right down raw every time God catches our eye, if God's love for each one of us is so potent that it scares God silly, if God's love for me is anything like the fierce and imperfect love that I feel for her, then I will keep on knocking. Even if I never find what I seek, I will knock on God's door and step into God's bedroom, oftentimes flaming mad with ultimatums blazing from my lips, but I will still knock, because I want to step inside of that kind of love and stay there. I need to live trusting that God is for me, no matter what answers do or do not come. I acknowledge that that may be easy for me to say when I have asked and have finally been answered with my heart's desire. I am speaking as one who has been answered, and that changes everything. But this is the only insight I can offer right now. But I am also making a new promise, a promise I only now truly see value in, that I will always try and hold onto hope for those who find themselves losing it as they ask and ask and ask and wait in silence for answers. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who seeks finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. And in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. Amen.